My revenge affair unraveled reality itself. This all started as an act of revenge, but it's twisted into something far more disturbing, something that leaves me questioning the very fabric of reality. My story begins in a relatively mundane way. My wife was cheating on me with her boss, a high-income executive, someone who seemed untouchable. The betrayal cut deep, and I needed to do something, so I told his wife. She was understandably devastated and divorced him, taking nearly everything in the settlement. In the aftermath, she and I found solace in our mutual hatred for our exes. It felt almost therapeutic to devise our little plot. If we became a couple, it would surely torture them. Initially, our fake dates were just that fake. We would meet, laugh over the furious voicemails and emails from our exes, and part ways. But something strange happened. Our charade began to feel real. We genuinely enjoyed each other's company. A year sped by, and we found ourselves moving in together. AP's ex-wife, now my partner, took on the role of stay-at-home stepmom to our blended family of 5 kids. Here's where things started getting unsettling. It seemed like a perfect twist of fate that my ex now had to pay child support to me, and her ex had to pay both alimony and child support. We decided against marriage, knowing a cohabitation agreement sufficed. Our lives seemed almost too perfect, eerily so. The kids were happy, we were happy, and our exes were absolutely livid. Then the voicemails from my ex-wife became darker, filled with a seething rage that was palpable. One night, she left a particularly menacing message, threatening us both. That voicemail was our ticket to a protective order. She was reprimanded by HR, her job hanging by a thread. In a deliciously ironic twist, my ex-wife and AP had split up, but the more we reveled in our seemingly karmic victory, the more I felt an uneasy shift in my perception. Little things started to seem off. I would wake up in the middle of the night feeling as if someone had been watching me. Shadows seemed to move in the corners of my vision. Objects wouldn't be where I left them. The kids, too, began talking about seeing shadows and hearing whispers. One night, as we were drifting off to sleep, I felt a cold breath on my neck, followed by a barely audible whisper. Karma, my partner, woke up screaming, claiming she saw a shadowy figure at the foot of the bed. We checked the house, found nothing, but the feeling lingered. Was it guilt manifesting as paranoia, or was there something else at play? Our exes seemed unnaturally fixated on us, almost as if their hatred had transcended normal boundaries, crossing into the supernatural. The more we laughed at their misfortune, the more intense the strange occurrences became. We tried to rationalize everything. Maybe it was just the stress of our tumultuous past catching up with us, but the pattern was undeniable. Every act of mockery towards our exes seemed to be met with an escalation in eerie incidents. Now I lie awake at night, haunted by the thought, what if our revenge has triggered something beyond our understanding? What if this isn't karma at all, but something far more sinister, something that's been waiting for the right moment to strike? And what if the real price of our happiness is yet to be paid? Update 1. It's been a few months since my last post, and things have taken an even more disturbing turn. I hoped that by sharing my experience, it would somehow diminish the dread that's been slowly creeping into our lives. but it seems the opposite has happened. After the initial wave of bizarre incidents, I tried to dismiss them as mere coincidences or the product of my overactive imagination. But when your children start waking up screaming, talking about dark figures whispering in their ears, it's hard to ignore. My partner and I decided we needed to get to the bottom of this. We installed cameras around the house, hoping to catch some rational explanation for the strange occurrences. The footage, however, only deepened the mystery. One night we saw it, a shadowy figure, indistinct and wavering, moved through our living room. It paused, as if sensing the camera, then melted into the darkness. We watched the footage repeatedly, our disbelief turning into sheer terror. How could this be happening? The days that followed were filled with an increasing sense of dread. Objects continued to disappear and reappear in odd places. Lights would flicker and the electronics would malfunction without any discernible cause. We even found unsettling messages scrawled in the dust on mirrors. Karma. The kids' behavior grew more erratic. They became withdrawn and spoke of hearing voices that told them things no child should ever hear. One night, my youngest son asked me why the shadow man didn't like us. I had no answer, just a cold pit of fear growing in my stomach. My ex-wife's behavior also grew more unhinged. She would call and leave voicemails filled with venomous rage, insisting that she could feel us laughing at her, that she knew we were behind her misfortune. It was as if she was feeding off the same malevolent energy that had invaded our home. I began to wonder if our revenge had somehow intertwined our fates in a way that went beyond the natural. Our friends and family became concerned. They would visit and comment on the heavy, oppressive atmosphere in our house. One friend, a normally skeptical guy, refused to come over anymore after he saw a shadow move across the wall behind me as we chatted in the kitchen. Sleep became a rare commodity. I would lie awake, listening to the house creak and groan, every noise a potential harbinger of something worse. My partner and I grew closer, our shared fear bonding us in a way that love alone couldn't. We tried to focus on the kids, maintaining as normal a routine as possible, but the strain was beginning to show. The breaking point came one night when I woke to find my partner standing at the foot of our bed, her eyes wide with terror. She said she'd heard a voice whispering my name, coming from the hallway. We both got up and searched the house, but found nothing. Yet the sense of being watched was overwhelming. Desperate for answers, we began to dig into the history of the house, wondering if there was some dark past we were unaware of. But our home was relatively new, with no record of any tragedies or hauntings. It seemed as if the darkness had been drawn to us, feeding off our initial malicious joy. Now we're left with more questions than answers. Is this some form of supernatural retribution? Or have we just become paranoid, our guilt manifesting in increasingly terrifying ways? The line between reality and nightmare blurs more each day, and we can't help but wonder if we've set something in motion that we can never undo. For now, we're taking things one day at a time, trying to protect our kids and find a way to reclaim our lives from whatever darkness we've unleashed. But the shadows are getting closer, and every night I lie awake, wondering if we'll ever escape this twisted web of our own making. Update 2. It's been a while since my last update, and I wish I could say things have improved. Instead, they've taken a turn that leaves me questioning everything, even my own sanity. After the last incident with the shadowy figure, we tried our best to maintain a semblance of normalcy. But the house and whatever dark presence had invaded it had other plans. The whispers became a constant backdrop to our lives, an insidious soundtrack that seemed to grow louder at night. Objects continued to move on their own, and the messages on the mirrors grew more sinister. You can't escape. The kids were the hardest hit. My youngest son began sleepwalking, often found standing in the hallway, staring blankly at the walls. He would speak in his sleep, his voice a distorted whisper repeating the same chilling phrase, "He's coming." My partner's children fared no better, plagued by nightmares that left them screaming and inconsolable. Desperation led us to consider moving, but every time we tried to leave, something stopped us. The car wouldn't start, or one of the kids would fall ill. It felt as though the house itself was holding us captive. My ex-wife's calls grew more deranged, her voice a mix of fury and fear, as if she too was being tormented by something beyond her understanding. One night I awoke to the sound of my partner sobbing. She pointed to the wall, where a new message had appeared, written in what looked like blood. "You deserve this." The sight broke something inside me. The sense of retribution had turned into a relentless personal hell. I could no longer tell if this was supernatural or a horrifying manifestation of our own guilt and paranoia. In a last-ditch effort to understand what was happening, I began keeping a journal documenting every incident, every whisper, every message. Patterns emerged, but they offered no comfort, only a grim reminder that whatever this was, it was intelligent and malicious. Then came the night that shattered any hope of escape. We were all gathered in the living room, trying to distract ourselves with a movie when the power went out. The room plunged into darkness, and the temperature dropped sharply. The kids huddled close, their fear palpable, and then we heard it, a deep, resonant voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "You cannot hide from what you've become." The shadows in the room deepened, coalescing into a form that defied logic. It stood before us, a mass of darkness that seemed to absorb the very light around it. My partner clutched my arm, her nails digging into my skin, but I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The entity drifted closer, its presence a suffocating weight. In that moment, everything became clear. This wasn't just about revenge. We had invited this darkness into our lives through our hatred, our joy in the suffering of others. It had fed on our emotions, growing stronger until it became an inescapable part of our reality. The figure reached out, its touch icy and paralyzing, and then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it was gone. The lights flickered back on, but the sense of dread remained, an unshakable reminder of our actions. Now we live in a state of uneasy truce with the darkness. The incidents have lessened, but the whispers never truly go away. We've stopped reveling in our exes' misfortunes, realizing too late the cost of our vengeance. Our home is no longer a sanctuary, but a prison of our own making. I don't know what the future holds. Perhaps the darkness will fade with time, or perhaps it will consume us entirely. All I know is that we are forever changed, haunted not just by shadows, but by the realization that some doors, once open, can never be closed.